So hello everyone who's joining us here online. This is a really special service today. If this is your first time with us, please do know this is not our typical service, but this is very special because today we are ordaining Eric into the church as a minister / lead moderator into Psanctuary Church. And so we have made a big effort to come together, as many of us as possible. It's really amazing. We have friends and members from Jamaica, from Texas, and from Nicaragua, and people who have come to be here. And this is just really special day. So thank you for being here. The service is, as I said, a little different today. We're also streaming from a mobile hotspot in the park. So if the internet may cut out, we'll see how it goes. Yeah, thank you so much. Please remember to mute your mics as always, so we can have as much flow as possible. We're just gonna go ahead and get started. Okay.
All right, so welcome and thank you for joining our sanctuary community and celebration. As we begin our statement of faith, we recognize that this statement does not exhaust the full extent of our faith. We believe that sacred mushrooms are the primary source of personal and divine revelation. We seek counsel from the mushroom to find direction and inspiration in our faith practice. And we believe that all individuals who seek true revelation from divinity can do so. And today, in lieu of our meditation, we are going to listen to a song selected by Eric.
Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. They say it's all going down, yeah, all gone over from your center. You can see it's just going up and around. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe it in, breathe it out. Feel the breath within the breath, take it in and take it down on the ground. Feel the rhythm slowing down to the speed of sound. Where it will not take away your trouble tomorrow, only take away your peace today. Where it will not take away your pain, your sorrow, bring it back to the breath and it can all melt away. Give, give, give out. No longer looking out for lies inside. No need to ever cut us ever. What can we untie? How in the world does it change? How in the world does it change? The answer always seems to be the same. The answer always seems to be the same. Don't hold your breath. Let it out, let it in, let it out. Less and less, I'm thinking more and more, and for sure now, more and more, I'm thinking less and less, no stress. Bring it in, bring it out, bring it in, bring it out. It's so simple that it's easy, you can see your belief, but you know exactly where you need to be, so just breathe. Well, it will not take away your trouble tomorrow, only take away your peace today. Well, it will not take away your pain, your sorrow, bring it back to the breath and it can all melt away. How in the world does it change? How in the world it take? The answer always seems to be the same. The answer always seems to be the same. Don't hold your breath. Let it out. Don't hold your breath. Don't
All right, and we will begin our first reading, The Science Being Great, with Honor helping us.
Yeah,
Sideways.
sideways.
Thank you. But this is from the Science of Being Great, chapter 19. But how shall we avoid throwing ourselves into altruistic work if we are surrounded by poverty, ignorance, suffering, and every appearance of misery, as many people are? Those who live where the withered hand of want is thrust upon them from every side, appealingly for aid, must find it hard to refrain from continuous giving. Again, there are social and other irregularities, injustices done to the weak, which fire generous souls with an almost irresistible desire to set things right. We want to start a crusade. We feel that the wrongs will never be righted until we give ourselves wholly to the task. In all this, we must fall back upon the point of view. We must remember this is not a bad world, but a good world in the process of becoming. Beyond all doubt, there was a time when there was no life upon this earth. The testimony of geology to the fact that the globe was once a ball of burning gas and molten rock, clothed about with boiling vapors, is indisputable. And we do not know how life could have existed under such conditions. It seems impossible. Geology tells us that later on a crust formed, the globe cooled and hardened, the vapors condensed and became mist or fell in rain. The cooled surface crumbled into soil, moisture accumulated, ponds and seas were gathered together, and at last somewhere in the water or on the land appeared something that was alive. It is reasonable to suppose that this first life was in single-celled organisms, but behind these cells was the insistent urge of spirit, the great one life seeking expression. And soon organisms having too much life to express themselves with one cell had two cells, and then many, and still more life was poured into them. Multiple celled organisms were formed: plants, trees, vertebrates, and mammal. Many of them with strange shapes, but all were perfect after their kind, as everything is that God makes. No doubt there were crude and almost monstrous forms of both animal and plant life, but everything filled its purpose in its day, and it was all very good. Then another day came, the great day of the evolutionary process, a day when the morning stars sang together and the sons of God shouted for joy to behold the beginning of the end. For people, the object aimed at from the beginning had appeared upon the scene. An ape-like being, little different from the beasts around him in appearance, but infinitely different capacity for growth and thought. Art and beauty, architecture and song, poetry and music, all these were unrealized possibilities in that ape person's soul. And for their time and kind, they were very good. It is God that works in you to will and to do of his good pleasure, says St. Paul. From the day the first person appeared, God began to work in people, putting more and more of God into each succeeding generation, urging them on to larger achievements and to better conditions, social, governmental, and domestic. Those who, looking back into ancient history, see the awful conditions which existed, the barbarities, idolatries, and sufferings, and reading about God in connection with these things are disposed to feel that God was cruel and unjust to people, should cause to think. From the ape person to the coming Christ person, the race has had to rise, and it could only be accomplished by the successive unfolding and the various powers and possibilities latent in the human brain. God desired to express God, to live in form, and not only that, but to live in form, express God wanted to evolve a form in which God could live as a God and manifest as a God. This was the aim of the evolutionary force. The ages of warfare, bloodshed, suffering, injustice, and cruelty were tempered in many ways with love and justice as time advanced. And this was developing the brain of people to a point where it should be capable of giving full expression to the love and justice of God. The end is not yet. God aims not at the perfection of few choice specimens for exhibition, like the large berries at the top of the box, but at the glorification of the race. The time will come when the kingdom of God shall be established on earth, the time foreseen by the dreamer of the Isle of Patmos, when there shall be no more crying, there shall there be no pain, for the former things are all passed away, and there shall be no night there.
Thank you, Honor. Now it's time for a litany of gratitude, the poem that we read every Sunday. So I invite you to join in with me when I say, we live in all things live in us. And those of you on Zoom who are joining us, feel free to unmute your mic. When I say we live in all things live in us. We live by the sun, we feel by the moon, we move by the stars. We live in all things.
All things live in us.
Eat from the earth, we drink from the rain, we breathe of the air. We live in all things.
All things live in us.
Call to each other, we listen to each other, our hearts deepen with love and compassion. We live in all things. All things live in us. We depend on the trees and animals. We depend on the earth, our minds open with wisdom and insight. We live in all things. All things live in us. Dedicate our practice to others. We include all forms of life. We celebrate the joy of living and dying. We live in all things, and all things live in us. We are full of life. We are full of death. We are grateful for all beings and companions.
We live in all things.
All things live in us.
Thank you. You can mute your mics now. You can read from the screen if you want to read it off.
Drop wisdom, abandon cleverness, and the people will be benefited a hundredfold. Drop humanity, abandon justice, and the people will return to their natural affections. Drop shrewdness, abandon sharpness, and robbers and thieves will cease to be. These are the three crisscross of the Tao and are not sufficient in themselves. Therefore, they should be subordinated to a higher principle. See the simple and embrace the primal. Diminish the self, curb the desires.
All right. So this is where our service gets exciting. It takes a turn. And we recognize we've gathered here today to celebrate the ordination of Eric Osborne into Psanctuary Church. Eric's religious studies and service to the sacred mushroom over the last 2 decades have helped shepherd thousands of people down a more spiritual path. We acknowledge and respect this work and recognize his leadership within the sanctuary community.
our ordination prayer. We acknowledge your perfection in all that is created. This is to the ineffable origin of all that is. We acknowledge your perfection in all that is created, and the human mind is capable of fathoming your workings. We come together today in awe of your perfection that through our human eyes often seems imperfect. In this, we recognize you as the one true source of unconditional love, guiding all existence towards a greater expression of perfection, unity, and accord. Omnipresent, you are, always have been, and always will be with us. Today we come before you, seeking your blessing as we bestow the title and all of the responsibilities that come with the role of moderator upon the person before us. Eric Osborne, as a moderator of Sanctuary Church, you are called to embody and proclaim the unconditional love of our Creator and to be of service to your community for administration of sacred mushrooms. You are to accept the divine nature of the human experience and all of the challenges that arise, and to love yourself and your community as is, thereby encouraging and teaching others to do the same. It is in this unconditional love that we come closest to the attainment of divinity. Because of your work and dedication of service to your community through the sacrament of sacred mushrooms, you have been selected by your community for this role. While imperfect, we acknowledge your ability to hold this position with humility and responsibility.
So we will now begin our declaration of this recognition, and we ask that you declare your commitment to this. Eric, do you recognize that you have been called by your Creator and community to serve in this role as moderator of this sacrament of sacred mushrooms?
Do you acknowledge the inherent wisdom of the sacrament and trust that it provides those who intentionally commune with it the wisdom and well-being that they seek?
Absolutely.
Do you commit yourself to ongoing study and practice to cultivate the spirit of leadership and discipline required to serve in this role?
Do you, in the presence of the community, commit yourself to administer the sacrament in faith and trust, knowing its power and responsibility?
Yes.
Will you accept guidance from this community of faith in which you have been called to serve?
Please help me. Yes.
Will you do your best to live by and uphold the standards required of an individual in this role of responsibility?
And finally, do you agree to foster a community of faith and openness that welcomes truth and our one human family?
Well then, we are honored and grateful to fully recognize you, Eric Osborne, as our first ordained moderator of Sanctuary, the Sacred Mushroom Church.
With that,
Yeah, so I was told that I was supposed to give a blessing to people, but no, I guess I did prepare something for this, but I first want to say that I can't bless anybody. We are all blessed because we exist. That reading that we heard, we are all the outcome of that ongoing equation that started. I can't even say time, because time isn't even a thing. It's just been going on and on and on and on. And we're all here just where we're supposed to be in this beautiful moment. And I do recognize that I have put a lot of work and time into getting to this point. I never would have imagined that this is where it would lead me to. But I'm really, really really grateful and really humbled at being in this position to bring together this community here of people from that represent experiences that I cannot put into words. And I have seen through working with the people, through working with the mushroom, that we are really all one. There's just one life. And rather than a blessing, I have a request that we all of us, help each other to try to come back to that realization that we are all one. This is one life, and that we are working towards and living in perfection that somehow doesn't seem perfect. There's really nothing more that I can say other than I'm just so grateful. And yeah, thank you all. This is not about me. Why this is so weird and awkward is because Sanctuary is not about me. We didn't start this for Eric to have a thing. I think the only reason I'm here is because I was so reluctant to be here for so long that's why whatever is making things move has moved me into this spot. And the only reason I'm here is to try to help bring together the community. And I ask you all to do the same. So thank you.
All right, so that closes out our ordination service for today. Grant will be leading our discussion portion online via Zoom. And we will be here celebrating, and I hope today you are also celebrating wherever you are in this beautiful day.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Grant, and everybody out there, everybody here. I know we've been coming together and envisioning what this can be, and this is such an early stage. But this is actually this is kind of like the real start. So thank you all. Grant, thank you so much for everything that you're doing over on that end. Stephen, you're the only one I can see on the Zoom. Super grateful that you're a part of this. All these people that I know and don't know, Lynn and Brandon, everybody, this is going to be amazing. We're reclaiming our right. So whatever conversation you all have, I know it's going to be amazing. I know it's going to be great. Celebrate that we are reclaiming our right to use this gift of nature to explore consciousness. Love y'all.